Hello, welcome back. I hope that you have been enjoying hanging out with your compassionate being. FYI, it's introduced in the last two videos if you haven't come across them. So in today's video, we are going to talk about compassion flowing out. So to give you a context, there are three different flows of compassion. Compassion flowing in from, for example, your compassionate being or a friend. And there is compassion flowing out from ourselves to people around us and the world, which is what we will be talking about today. And finally, there is also compassion coming from one part of ourselves to the other part of ourselves, such as the fearful part of ourselves or the wounded part of ourselves. And we'll talk about that part later. So why is these flows or these kind of compassionate mind training, especially flowing compassion in and out, how is this going to be helpful to hoarding or difficulties letting go? Here's my thought. Many people with hoarding issues have difficulties relate and connect deeply and intimately with people in their lives. And this may cause a lot of isolation, or this may cause the kind of phenomena that even if you've been going out, hanging out with many people, however, there's really no one or very few people that you feel comfortable sharing who you truly are, how you truly feel. And as a result of this, there is a lot of isolation, a lot of loneliness, a lot of fear. And in this way, having things becomes a coping mechanism. So some people feel like they need to have or they need to do a lot of things in order to be worthy, in order to be lovable, likable. And other people feel that they need to feel surrounded by a lot of physical things to feel less lonely, to feel more protected. And however, neither of these strategies seems to have an end to it. It seems to be never enough. You never feel like you have enough things to ensure your self-worth. You never feel like you have enough things to stop you from feeling lonely or scared. So I think compassion may be the answer. How do we cultivate the kind of compassion like we talked about in the beginning of the series that helps us to accept ourselves, that helps us to ease the anxiety that often come about in social context, And how can we develop the strength that helps us to stay grounded, that helps us to have the courage to give and receive. So as part of that, today we are going to talk about the second flow of compassion, which is compassion flowing from inside out to the world. So there are many ways that we can strengthen our muscles to give compassion. And I think for many people, especially those people who have difficulties letting go, giving compassion is relatively easier than receiving compassion. So let's start from practicing giving. So in a lot of quote-unquote real life circumstances, when we give, we often have some strings attached to our giving. And don't get me wrong, this is totally human nature. However, today, let's try to practice giving without any strings attached. And the reason why I suggest that is because when there is strings attached, then when we are giving or after we give, there is this kind of like aftertaste of anxiety, whether I would be appreciated, whether the other person will thank me or give me something in return, or whether I will feel good about myself for giving. So that sometimes gives us a sense of anxiety or a sense of at least discomfort. So today, let's try something a little bit different. The kind of giving that is coming from a safe and grounded place in ourselves. And the kind of giving that makes us feel good just by the act of giving. So let's imagine giving to an animal or a child, because that usually for most people is the easiest to trigger compassion compared to giving to somebody that you really don't like. Let's begin this imagery exercise by finding a comfortable place to sit down. So sit down and have your back straighten up. Imagine a string pulling up your head gently. So let's empty the air in our lungs together. And take a deep breath in and out. One more deep breath in and out. A few more deep breaths in and out on your own. When you breathe in, know that you are breathing in. When you breathe out, know that you are breathing out. And if you haven't already, I would suggest that you close your eyes or have your gaze down. This will minimize the visual distractions for you during this exercise. So with your eyes closed or your gaze down, and while you continue to breathe in and out slowly and deeply, I would like you to picture a little animal. It may be a dog, maybe a cat, or it may be a bird. Picture a little animal that is going through some distress. Maybe they are hungry, maybe they are lost, maybe they are injured. Picture this animal in front of you. Imagine being there, feeling their distress. Imagine being there and being so open to feel empathy and sympathy for their distress. Notice, how does this openness and feeling of empathy and sympathy make you feel? How does this affect your body? How does this affect your breathing? Is this bringing in a certain kind of facial expression for you? What are the feelings and sensations you're experiencing right now? Being there, being open and sensitive enough to feel empathy and sympathy for this injured or lost or hungry little animal. And if you are having trouble feeling empathy or sympathy, that's all right. That's all right. Just simply acknowledge that. I'm having trouble feeling sympathy or empathy. Just simply acknowledge that. And similarly, however much, whatever way you are feeling sympathy or empathy or any sort of feelings toward this little animal that is in distress, it's all okay. Just simply notice, how are you feeling? And let's continue to imagine that you have the wisdom and the judgment to understand the source or sources of suffering for this little animal. You understand why they are feeling the way they do. And imagine that you have the strength to not be overwhelmed by their distress. Like a caretaker comforting an injured animal. You know just what to do. Or even if you don't know what to do, you are able to be there to keep company and provide comfort to this little animal. Imagine how that makes you feel to be providing whatever, providing the kind of resources, support, or just presence that you think would be helpful to this being. Imagine how it feels to be opening your heart to be grounded in your strength, and from that place offer support, offer care, or even offer relief to this being's suffering. And in the process of doing so, if you feel any kind of resistance, if you feel any kind of uncomfortable feelings, that's totally normal, totally acceptable. Just notice them. So it's like going to the gym to train our muscles in the physical body. Doing this exercise of imagining, giving compassion is one way to train our psychological muscles to connect from a place of strength, from a place of I am enough, I have enough. When we give, So wherever you find yourself are today in this practice, that's where you are. And that's the perfect place to begin this training. So I hope you have enjoyed this brief exercise. And I would encourage you to come back to this exercise and other exercises again and again. It's like going to the gym. You use different facilities repeatedly. I wish you well. See you in the next video.